And welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Please like and subscribe. And now your three hosts, starting with Romina with the good hair, your second host, Audrey, still is the Owl Slayer Ember, and of course your third host and the final boss of every game that ever haunted you as a child, Roberto Blake. Thank you for joining us on the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. What's up, crew?
Amazing. Well, I went to a salon for the first time in 5 months. So
What?
I do have great hair. That was great acting.
I know.
Acting like
you definitely did just tell
in
us
your
that
life.
like 3 seconds ago.
Roberto, do you go to any places to do any, like, do you go to barber or anything like that?
Not in a long time, not since quarantine, but not in a while. I mean, I basically just shave and that's that. Aside from when I needed to, I guess, get a little bit of a lineup, I did that a couple of months ago. I didn't really they didn't do a great job, so I just don't worry about it usually. And you know me, even ever since I took my braids out, I've just been growing my hair back, so.
Yeah.
No need.
What about you, Audrey?
I went not too long ago. For the first
didn't you get didn't you get bangs cut, or did you do those yourself?
No, I went to a place. But that was like almost a month ago now, so it's been a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't plan on going back for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess, is everybody having a good week?
I have to pull an all-nighter after this to meet a deadline for a brand deal, so.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Fun.
Yeah.
What are you doing for them? Or is that secret?
It's NDA, but I'll tell you guys, like, offline, but like I have to basically finish 3 tutorial videos. They're around 4 minutes each though. It's not the worst thing. It's that that you have to do multiple. You guys have done tutorials. You know that to get it right and get the screenshots and everything, you have to do multiple takes, and it's just a pain in the ass.
And for it to all just kind of line up and the pacing.
And you have to get the names of every menu and every shortcut right, especially when it's gonna be for the brand and it's their thing and it's their product. Yeah.
Let's not go over time.
Yeah. No, we're gonna try really hard. I mean, I got everything else I need to get done this week. I got 2 other brand deals done. I got some content out. I still have to also get out a video tonight because the thing is, I need the momentum from a video from tonight for a brand deal video that goes out tomorrow. So I still have to do a regular YouTube video, but it won't be too bad. It'll be loosely edited anyway, and the thumbnail will do most of the work. So.
Sad truth.
The title, topic, and thumbnail itself will do almost all the work for this one.
Have you been daily for like a little while now?
I've been ramped up. I wouldn't quite say daily, but like there was a like last week I did 6 days out of 6 in a row, back to back.
Nice.
Whoa.
It did just shoot a shot of adrenaline into the channel, but I came up with I looked at the data from it and I figured out a lot of interesting stuff. And with YouTube releasing the new RPM stat, revenue per thousand stat, which I already knew about and I had access to it, like, before I could talk about it via NDA, which is part of what the video I'm dropping tonight's about, because it's going to be about how to get high CPM videos. But I came up with a mathematical equation to make a certain amount of money consistently by thinking exclusively about how much money my YouTube channel generates per hour based on my revenue per thousand and how many views I get on average in a 24-hour, 48-hour period. I did the math and I did a calculation basically to say, if I do this, if I get this much traffic, the YouTube channel averages this much money. So that literally means as long as there's an X amount of traffic, the machine is on and is always going to make this much money a day.
Nice.
That's good.
Yeah, so I figured
Now,
out how to do.
let me ask you something.
yeah.
For the tutorial type videos, like the one that you're going to do tonight.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, those are for the
how do
brand.
you
Those
go
on their
around?
channel.
Well, all right, but how do you go around planning videos like that? Like, do you have a process? Like, what's your specific process, or is it just different depending on what platform you're working with or what the tutorial is?
The process is that I actually do the thing that in the tutorial I'm supposed to do on my MacBook Pro, screen record it the first time, doing it in real time, the way that I want it done. And usually I've made an outline, so I'm doing everything in the right order for a beginner. And then with that screen recording, I did the process. I don't need to necessarily do any verbal cues. Then I go into the history of the app, undo everything I just did, turn on the camera, screen record again whilst doing a clap to sync the audio, and then I record and do it in real time so that I have my A-roll of everything I'm supposed to say, so on and so forth, and I have that. And so then I do it one more time where I'm more focused on the A-roll than doing the tutorial again, so that I have myself saying all the words probably correctly, or I can redo takes and so on and so forth. So I literally have to shoot a video 3 times in order to make sure that I have it.
Dang, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's
But that's
a lot.
I would not do that for my own channel. With my channel, I can do it as a one and done. But with a brand, it has to be perfect.
Right, a little bit more polished. No, I get that. There's
It means that a 5-minute tutorial ends up being about roughly almost an hour, more close to a half hour to shoot, a half hour to an hour to shoot. So that's why it's going to be an all-nighter.
Yeah, that makes sense considering the process that you take. I think that for myself, I guess I typically, because I already know how to do the thing, and I have it so well memorized, it's muscle memory. I think there's like I just record, I screen record, and I record live action my camera. I record myself at the same time and then just sync it with that.
Yeah. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm doing it 2 to 3 times. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need an absolutely perfect take of the process. So that's the no audio portion of like, this is just the clean process so that I can have that to supplement. The other one is I have to get the talking to camera right and doing everything in the right order and not missing steps. So I have to do it for real. That also gets the timing right to be able to say, okay, I got it in under 5 minutes. So I have to do it with a clock. And then I do it again to make sure I got the lines perfectly, the actual 2 direct to camera instructions and performance right. And and that's the only reason I do it that way for the brand, is because if it was only my channel, I only have to do it once, twice tops. But with the brand, they're big about things like continuity errors and shit like that, and they're you have to say the name of the keyboard shortcuts perfectly.
Yeah.
Fun.
I don't have to be perfect if I'm doing it on my own channel. Or I can,
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
make
you can just do a live
or
and
I can do a
yeah.
post, or I can do it in post edit in a way that even if the continuity isn't perfect, it doesn't matter. It's YouTube. But when it's a brand that you're representing, the problem is the lack of room to make any error. When it's on their platform, there can't be errors because that represents them.
Right.
But if I was doing it and it's a brand deal, even on my own channel, it'd be a little bit easier.
That makes sense.
Yep. thing I don't like about it is like, I mean, I like working with brands and I like that stuff. It's just that it reminds me in some ways way too much of having a boss. Between deadlines and
Yeah.
revisions and instructions, it's like,
And
you know,
approvals.
and approvals. Yeah. My regular business with the coaching and speaking, I don't really have approvals for anything with that, you know? Um, I don't have to do like it's all on my terms. Even working with clients and having students and everything, they're paying me to be an expert. That's a different thing. When you're paid to be an expert, it's we're going through my process. So
Right. Yeah. What do you think about all that, Audrey?
Dang.
Wow. Feel free to contribute as part of as part of the podcast.
well, you've done brand deals, Audrey, so you know how it is.
Yeah, but I don't think I've ever filmed a video 3 times. Like that's interesting how that's your process. Like when I'm doing a tutorial, I'll do the thing like on my own. I won't film. I'll just screen record so that I have, or get the A-roll or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what product or thing you're doing for this one, but
so yeah, I screen record. Like I said, I screen record the first time, then I do a version where I'm doing it again with the camera, but I'm also screen recording because then I'm getting the timing, more accurate.
Well, it sounds like you have to be really specific. Like, so if I screen record before and then I'm filming the tutorial part, I'll just kind of like skim over it. I'm not worrying about. I've never had to worry about like specific commands and stuff and like all that. So
yep,
I can see how you'd have to be more specific with that.
Yeah, it's mostly that. Yeah, it's the specificity of it, and again the timing because there's a very hard like okay these need to be short tutorials.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
Yep. If it wasn't perfection, if it wasn't a timetable kind of thing of making them short, ironically, making them short is what makes this harder and makes it take longer.
Yeah, that's so true. Because if it was longer, you could kind of like get away with not rambling, but
I would
it doesn't
literally
have to
just do it all once in one take if it was not for this particular like set of circumstances. I would literally, like I said, if I was doing it on my channel and we were doing a brand deal for my channel, I would do it all in one take. Easy.
Sometimes I think brands are too limiting with that stuff. Because I don't know what type of difference it really... I mean, I know there's certain standards and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah. It just is what it is, and they're paying, so they get to ask for what they want.
That's true. Can't complain.
I mean, the alternative is just to not do... Like, I mean, again, you know me. I typically... I'm doing more brand deals lately. Part of that is because in my coaching business, I brought on a team, so I'm taking less profits on my business. So I've stepped up a little bit on my influencer stuff to just make sure that I can hit the goals that I have, which all take money, so I can hit my goals and still make sure that I'm taking care of everybody I got to take care of.
Nice. Romina, what have you been up to? What are you working on? What can you talk about the thing?
Thing. You just raised your left eyebrow like
I didn't know if I could say what it is, so it's the thing.
The web app?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's probably like the most that I want to talk about right now. But I guess so. A couple days ago, I made a checklist for it to go through the process of everything that I have to do, which is a lot. I mean, it's a very simple app, but there's so many different steps that you have to take that it's when you're using an application, like when you're using something like Twitter, it's just so simple and you don't realize how much goes behind it. Like, you think, well, you just log in and then there's a thing there, a text box that you type whatever you're thinking and you hit enter, right? And you think like, oh, that's really simple. But then there's like, you have to do so many other things like, make the page where they sign up, make the page where they log in, make the page where they check, their settings.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of different, I guess, steps to take. And so I made a checklist for that. And today I got a bunch of stuff done. So I decided that today, for this week, I decided to split up my week, like every day, have a theme. And so today was just that. And so that's all I worked on today. Was going through that checklist and coming up with different pages, different features that I wanted, what the business model would be like, and yeah,
That's cool.
I guess that's yeah, it is. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing that, and then also building up my other business, the Animore Studios one. So that was Monday's work, which was Brand Awareness Day for me. I did client outreach, and I looked for leads, and then made spreadsheets and stuff of that, and then kind of fixed like logos and like social online presence, Google Business, like all that kind of stuff, setting stuff up for Animore Studios.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it takes, I mean, it's like, it's not,
things that take time.
It's not like super hard work, I guess, but it's more like, it just takes time, and it's like tedious because it takes time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Audrey? Are you working on anything cool?
Well, I'm posting a video tomorrow, so I need to finish that tonight too.
Okay.
Any teases as to what it's about? And yeah, like wonderful days of burning that midnight oil, huh?
I feel like you guys might know her. I don't know if we talked about this in chat, but do you guys know Kelly Stamps?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm making a Playing with Fire on her.
Oh, sweet.
Ooh. Are you gonna learn some K-pop moves?
No, I made tiramisu though for the video.
Ooh. Okay.
So yeah, it was fun, but I also had to refilm it, so I had to make tiramisu twice, which was just time
like my
consuming.
tutorial promises. Yeah, like my tutorial promises. You have to do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, everyone else was happy about that.
I mean, was it good? Like, was it edible or?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes.
What?
It was
I just
edible.
Listen. I made some peanut butter cookies the other day, and Lord knows that they were not edible.
I retweeted the podcast. Hopefully, some more of our peoples show up.
Yeah. By the way, if you're listening to this, tune in live at youtube.com/noassemblypod every Thursday at 8 p.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, I haven't checked if we got new reviews.
Oh, we probably haven't.
Wow.
Hey, I got hope.
Okay. I see your expectations
my lack
are low.
of faith disturbs you.
Yeah, just a little. Just a little. Well, I guess, I mean, today's podcast, today's episode is $100,000 enough to live on every month. And I guess we kind of decided that because we had this conversation like a couple weeks ago, and the $100,000 question is, what is this new review that we've gotten, Audrey?
We got one.
Yeah, what is it?
Thank you to Aaron Papert.
Peepert.
I probably completely butchered that. Peepert. That's an amazing name. And he left like look at this. It's like a full-on paragraph.
Right, but is it good? Is it a good paragraph?
Positive. Yes. That's a bad paragraph.
Are you gonna read it?
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it. I mean, if people leave us reviews and they're good, well, read the good parts, kind of skip through it and read some of the good parts.
This is the first sentence. Listening to this podcast is like hanging out with friends.
Aww.
You're in the middle of chats that discuss film, pop culture, and ultimately end up becoming philosophical debates on good versus evil, as well as dive into a bit of modern politics. Oh no, did we accidentally?
Oh no.
I can't imagine when we did that. I think money ends up being political for people. I think people politicize money.
Right, for some reason,
Moralize
but okay.
it too. They moralize it too. So
Yeah.
Hosts also have experience in Hollywood, filmmaking, graphic design, life coaching, and have a collective wealth of knowledge that can help you achieve some of your goals.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll
Oh,
take the compliment. I'll take
it's
the
not
W.
done.
Oh,
It keeps going. Shoot, I failed to mention that the hosts of this show have diverse ages and backgrounds and all have found a level of success on YouTube.
take the W.
Wow.
This is just nice.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
the
Thanks,
kindest
Aaron.
Thank you,
review.
Aaron.
Yeah, that's like the
We should
kindest review.
screenshot it and tweet that out. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
Taking that
guys.
W. Taking
We
that
need
W.
external validation from our comments.
Right?
Wait, he took the time. He took the
I know,
time
that was
to review it.
That
I
absolutely
will. I
appreciate.
will take the time to screenshot it and share it with people.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. But as I was saying before, we were kind of talking about $100,000 a year and whether that was enough to live on. And actually, this is a pretty interesting discussion because we've actually talked about this like in our own text message groups and stuff like that, like personally, you know, like because in our group chats, like we talk specifics, right? I mean, obviously there's stuff that we don't talk about on air because it's like we talk about like our bank statements and, you know, like stuff like that. Like I've sent you guys like screenshots of like my credit card, not like my credit card numbers, but like my spreadsheet with like my credit cards and stuff. You know, so it's like this is something that we talk about whether
I mean, you two are
$100,000
like-
is enough or not, right?
You two are like part of a handful of people, along with my accountant, who know how much money I actually make and how much of it I actually spend on my business.
Guys, Aaron Piper is here.
Thank you for the wonderful review, Aaron. Appreciate it. I'll take the W.
I almost just died drinking tea. What a horrible existence. Can you imagine? Like there's people who are dying from horrible things, and here's Romina dying alone in her room choking on
Darwin Award goes to
choking on chamomile.
the Darwin Award goes to.
Why are you at the hospital? I almost choked on tea. Like,
Well, you know, it's better than being in the hospital because you choked on cinnamon for doing the cinnamon challenge.
Just
True.
barely.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I've shared stuff with you guys that I haven't shared with a lot of people. Even people who are really, really like, you know, family or people that I've known for years and years and decades. Yeah, so what, Audrey, excuse me, I'm trying to have.
I don't know
A
why I'm
moment.
laughing.
I'm
Trying to have a
wow.
moment. She's trying to
Okay.
have a moment
Now I
here.
know. But I feel like, I mean, I've actually asked myself this question, and this is something that actually came up while I was reading Money Master the Game. Master the Game.
100,000 before or after taxes.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a whole other. Well, here's the thing. So while I was reading that book, this is something that I've actually asked myself before, you know, where it's like once you start budgeting your life and realizing how much money you're actually spending and how much money is coming in, and realize what your margins are, you start to get a better picture of how much you actually really truly need to cover the basics, right? And I feel like a lot of people have this idea that they need so much more than what they actually need to cover the basics. And then because of that mentality, they feel like it's unattainable.
Well, also some of it depends on whether you believe in fire or not.
Right.
Because the problem with making a certain amount of money is that if you say you cover the basics and you put away a little bit extra, you don't have any money for a catastrophic emergency, number one. Two,
right.
You might actually be living below the appropriate standard of what would maintain your health indefinitely and set a good foundation for you to grow healthy as you grow old. And then there's also the simple fact of if you don't make and put away enough money and invest it properly, then you will work to the day you die. If you're even allowed to work to the day you die. And that's
right.
the problem. And that's why I don't like, and I don't like the rhetoric around someone doesn't need X amount of money, and that, oh, trying to make a certain amount of money is greedy or entitled or spoiled or special. It's like, no, who are you to dictate what standard of life somebody should have and what they should be allowed and capable to do if they're willing to work and earn it? Or again, oh, well, you can't work and earn that kind of money. It's like, so what? So someone was smart enough to create leverage and you weren't, and everything. That's called a you problem.
Yeah, I think there's
I grew up, you remember, I grew up bullied. I grew up, oh, don't raise your
Right.
hand so much and kids won't be. I was like, I am sick and tired of the idea that people who have either smarts or talent or skills or knowledge should have to suppress themselves to make other people feel less insecure about what they do and don't have. Go get yours then, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, for probably almost my entire childhood, my upbringing, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder and I was medicated. And even though I was presented with this obstacle, and I put that in quotes, I was also, my parents also instilled in me the knowledge that I was fully capable of doing anything and everything that I wanted to do. As long as I just did it, you know. They also come from a background where you just put in the work, and it's not really so much, you just have to do it just because that's your duty, because that's the thing that you've signed up to do, but as far as like what is enough and what isn't enough, that's definitely something that changes from individual to individual. Because for me, I could definitely, I know that I can cover the basics and have a little bit extra for luxury and leisure at maybe like $50,000. That's
Does the basics include good healthcare coverage though?
Yeah.
With a nice deductible, like, because those
Well,
plans are
more
not.
or less. Yeah. I mean, I was calculating anywhere between like 200 to 300 a month for healthcare.
Have you looked at the rates lately?
No.
For good plans.
Well, not good. I mean, I just look at the thing. That's a whole other discussion, Roberto.
Yeah.
I don't look at the market because I've always had either state healthcare or a very affordable healthcare because I was part of the union.
Yeah.
So it's like, so for me, I've never had to look at that yet. That's like a whole other agenda. So I can't speak on that. But from what I have looked at, those are the ranges that I've looked at. 200 to 300 is what I've looked at. And also, again, that really depends on who you are and where your health is at as well, and what exactly you feel like that you require. Overall, I'm a very healthy person, and and the thing is too, I have friends who are doctors, and I have friends who are dentists. Like I just went to the dentist 2 weeks ago. So like, I don't feel like it's really that big of a deal to me. Obviously for other people who have, ongoing conditions or stuff like that, that's something that's a little bit different.
Audrey,
or
please
somebody
remember
who
to
wants
put the 50 disclaimers in the description down below.
Right. I mean, that is a whole other complicated thing, but just in general, I'm speaking for myself as a person like me, Romina.
Yeah.
And from the calculations that I've made, I know that the basics and a little bit of leisure and a little bit of luxury can be $50,000. That is like bare minimum, like counting what is going in and out. This is not financial freedom. This
because
is
you're single and no kids.
Right.
That works.
Right. And this is and this is like bare minimum.
Oh, and not living in New York and California.
Right. But if it was let's say if it was Los Angeles, then I would probably bump that closer to the 100,000.
The taxes alone would force you to.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that everything is more expensive there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that really is on the very low spectrum.
Yeah.
Like
the real
very
estate,
just basic.
Look, the real estate, what you pay in rents in California is so bad that yeah, you could have $100,000 and feel poor, and it's not being spoiled or privileged or entitled. It's just relative to the cost. Whereas if you made $40,000 and you live in Mississippi, you could be like feeling like you live in the good life. That's just the difference in the markets when it comes to rents and mortgages and the
Yeah.
general cost of living, the cost of utilities, and the tax situation. A lot of people go to Florida because with Florida, um, like they have a lot. There's a lot of different advantages to being in Florida, but one of them is the lack of the state taxes, the fact
Mhm.
that you don't have to deal with that. So there's
Yeah.
that. There's
If you guys
benefits to
ever need to
living.
buy an Apple product, buy it in Florida.
There's benefits to living in Nevada. There's these places that there's Texas. There's these different places where your money goes further
Hmm.
depending on where you are in life.
Now, there are some cities that are incentivizing people to come work there. Like if they are digital nomads or they work remotely, or they're entrepreneurs, they have incentives and stuff like that to bring them over to work there. But the thing is that you know, people don't want to live in like Wichita, they want to they want to live in like New York City. So that really is uh, a choice.
Well,
You're making that choice,
earning
right?
potential for people who aren't in the digital or remote working space. But again, being able to be in that space is also a choice people make.
Mm,
Like the opportunities to do certain types of work and earn a high income is going to be in those more expensive metro areas because that's how it works proportionately, and because of the taxes is the tax revenue, is a result of more people being there and doing high income work. So that's a factor. I mean, having having crossed that threshold of $100,000 a couple of years ago, it meant the world to me, and I thought, okay, I've made it. And then, well, aside from oh crap, taxes and then back taxes and things like that, because I didn't understand what making that kind of money looked like.
mm,
I was like, oh, it's not as much as I thought. It's that because the thing is, I realized that me and my family had been living so far below our means that I was going to have to spend money to actually take us to a healthy place. And it was going to require
right.
more money even than the $100,000. I thought I had improved our quality of life at $100,000. And I realized that, and in my case, in context for a lot of the audience, I don't talk a lot about this stuff because it's not all my story to tell. But it's like, but I helped my mom. I retired my mom. She's a diabetic, so she has a lot of different needs. She doesn't have the largest pension in the world, and when you look at your parents getting older, and I mean, for me, growing up
Mm,
in a single parent home, all I ever wanted to do was be in a position to help my mom. So, like, I literally want to scrap and fight with people and beat the shit out of them whenever they call me privileged, because how dare they? Because they don't, if they haven't gotten context on my story. And it's like, and I'm from Brooklyn and I live in Atlanta. So when I say that, it's not a threat, but it's like, it's not a
wow.
threat or nothing,
It's not a threat.
but let's go.
It's
And
not a
so,
threat, but let's
It's a
go.
little
I'm
contradictory.
gonna put that on a
but
shirt.
I'm just being real. I'm just being real that it's like I hate that shit so much, you two. And I rant about it in our chats. It's like
Mm,
I hate it so much because you don't understand what it is to have like gone through, because it's like I came out of the other side. It's not my fault that you're still there, and I can feel bad for you and I can talk to you about what I did, but to just dismiss anything I have to say or to write me off when I've literally been where you are, but I didn't stay there and it wasn't any freaking luck. If I had any luck, it was all bad. It just irritates me so much because it's this learned helplessness and it's this philosophy of despair that like nothing can happen if someone doesn't come rescue you. And that's like
mm,
and it's so wrongheaded, and it's so wrongheaded to demonize people for what they've managed to overcome and accomplish, because the problem is people try to make everything egalitarian, or they try to make everything unreasonably they try to make it, they try to presume everything is it's funny, while talking about inequality, too many people try to make everything equal. Not all work is equal, and not all labor is equal, and not everybody's time is valued the same, and there's a good reason for it. Well, I work hard too, and I don't have blah blah blah. It's like, well, did you learn to code? Because I did. Did you learn to video edit? Did you master 20 pieces of open source software? Did you master 10 pieces of paid software after you made the money back on that? Did you learn the 15 skills I had to learn just to claw my way out of debt and to like save my family after my mom lost her house in the last recession? Like, did you do like you worked hard, and I'm not taking that away from you. Did you work hard and smart, and did you do it the way that me or anybody else who, you know, made it work? Did you do the things we did? Because if you did the things we did, it's not a guarantee that you'd have similar results, but it's much more likely than you just doing what you've been doing that didn't work the last 5 years, you know, and the time was going to
Right.
pass regardless. So like, is $100,000 a month enough? My two of
A
my
year.
sorry, a year. I don't make $100,000 a month. By the way,
I think a hundred
$100,000 a
thousand a
month is
month is
probably
is
enough.
enough.
It's probably enough. Um, it probably is. Unless there's some unreasonable health situation, which is entirely possible. Because I know a couple, out west that, in terms of just the medical bills, to save his wife, and then for them to be able to have kids, is so something so many people would take for granted. It's like, how much money would you spend to how much money would you spend and hustle for to keep the love of your life in this world? How much money would you spend to be able to have a family? Like that, you can't put a price on those things. And so, you know, what is enough? Tell me. Yeah, but what I'll say is, I know, I have a friend and her husband. They lived in Chicago. They recently moved down south, but they used to live in Chicago. Between them, they were making about 120, 140K a year, and they had one kid. But the cost of rent in Chicago, where they needed to work to do their high-paying jobs in insurance, was astronomical, even for their one-bedroom apartment with a kid. And on top of that, childcare was $1,600 a month just to make sure that their kid was going to be okay, so they could both keep working to make that money. And this was all pre-corona. And so that 100,000 a year that makes it seem like they made it, especially being black and Puerto Rican between them, like, nah, homie, it wasn't enough. Not when you calculate that with their jobs. There was built-in cost to not be less than, because they had to, you know, in the industry they were in insurance, and they were doing like the corporate insurance deal type stuff, for like the universities and stuff like that. You know, the bulk package group programs and plans and stuff like that. They were the underwriting people for that kind of stuff. That's the gig. Well, when you were in that kind of gig, you like, you know, she had to get her hair done because there is some discrimination in terms of natural hair for women of color. So she had to.
Right.
That's an expense, and it's not. And it's a business expense. You can't. It's a career expense. You can't get around it, right? Childcare. That's a lot of money. They both had to pay off the student loans. That's a lot of money. They had to pay on their cars, but they also sometimes had to still do in-city commuting. That's money that gets ate up. Then there's the Chicago rents. That's
Right.
always a big deal. And then there's you have to do the fancy lunches in that industry, or you don't move up the ladder. That's just how it is. You have to do the fancy lunches. And so they had all these built-in cost to looking like they made it, to have the jobs that say on paper you've made the American dream, and they still didn't have it. And they still had all that student loan debt to even have the opportunity to play the game. So it's like, sorry, between childcare, student loan debts, optics, when you have a high income that have to be maintained to keep that income in that industry to play the game, it's like you're playing the game at a loss at some point. $100,000 isn't always enough. I know for people making 20, 30, 50, it might sound insane,
Right.
but it's just that bad out there, because if you're living 20, 30, 50, you have no idea how much below
Yeah.
healthy you probably even are. You probably think, oh, I'm fine. You won't be feeling that way at 50 and 60. I promise you. I know people who lived like that too long. If you don't make a certain amount of money to change your lifestyle, your nutrition, your health, even just the damn bed that you own, you're going to wake up 45 and you're going to be physically in pain every day. And you're going to, like my grandmother was.
Yeah. I think definitely it depends on like where you are and what your needs are. But now when you do break it down as far as like, I mean, we've sort of talked about this before because I know that you're working on your book, the gaming book. But when you kind of think about it as like, okay, as the 100,000 being a tier, being a level.
Yeah.
Once you reach that level, you want to go to the next level. And it doesn't always necessarily come down to greed or wanting more, but it's you know, it's what's next. It's the inevitable snowball of
You
like,
realize what challenges you overcame. You realize the world is bigger than that, and that there are bigger, badder monsters out there, and bigger, badder threats and bosses, and that there are dungeons and things like that. That if you're going to explore the world, that green level gear might be better than gray level gear, but you're still woefully unarmed for what the world outside of, like, you know, that first floor actually is. Once you go, oh, I'm not on those lower levels anymore. As I climb up, I realize, oh, it's like, I mean, for anybody who's ever watched anime, it's this power scaling. It's like, oh, you know, that guy in season 1 that we thought was like so overwhelmingly powerful. We never felt a power like this before. By the time we're season 3, it's like, oh, you mean dude who was trashed here? Like, it's like you don't know until you, like, you know, it's like when you're playing a game and you're like level 20, you start feeling really good about yourself until you see what a level 50 is capable of, and when until you realize that it's like you went into the thing and you found like this enemy that you can't even see its level. It just has a skull and crossbones above it as an icon, and you realize, okay, that's not for me. I can't deal with that. And then you get to a level where you can finally identify that thing, and you know what it's like to go toe to toe with it and win, and you're like, okay, like, man, I would have never been able to do that 30 levels ago. Like, but got through that battle. It's like you know, I think no one looks at, well, what would level 100 even look like playing this game, as far as like knowing that, okay, if I just get caught out in the world and the worst should happen, I will be
right.
okay. I will be okay. It will be a survivable thing. I don't think
Right.
people reckon for what they would have to ascend to for certain things to not be like world
Detrimental.
ending,
Yeah.
detrimental world. That, like, most Americans today don't have $1,000 in saving, which means if they got
That
into
right.
a altercation or a brawl or a bar fight, like they or their family, it'd be a struggle to scrape up the bail money, right? Most normal
Yeah.
people, 60% of normal people in this country would not have bail money.
Which is so I
Your freedom's gone.
yeah, I mean I like just wrapping my head around that is so bewildering. It's like even when I was at my lowest, like I still managed to try to save. Granted, I did go into like overdraft many times and like, you know, I had way too much debt and all of this stuff. But I feel that once there is like a level of sustainable income that's coming in, it saving like when I first started, I started off with $5 a month.
Yeah.
And then just kept snowballing it as more came in or as I spent less that month. Like it's I incrementally just
Well,
increased it.
Audrey, do you, like, let me ask you this as you know, someone that's learning about these things and like new to adulting 101. Like, do you even buy things when you make money?
I really try not to. Like, unless recently it's really been only essentials. Like, I bought a new computer recently, and that was a big deal because I literally had to.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I think I can still just get the butterfly keys on this thing fixed at some point, and I can still grind with it until the 2021 Mac comes out.
Oh, yeah.
I have
No,
the money, and I haven't replaced my laptop in 3 years. I like, people don't think that I'm frugal, but think about it like this: I haven't replaced my laptop in 3 years. We see
I got
YouTubers
you
that buy
beat.
the new.
My laptop lasted 7 years.
you're an anomaly. I don't know how your computer is still moving or was.
Well, you finally bought a new one, so.
Yeah,
But, like,
okay, after 7 years.
no, I think, like,
I got
especially
you beat.
now.
Like,
But
especially
that was
now-
probably not in your best interest, for me, because you
wait,
used it
she's
for
trying
work.
to say something.
Sorry, Audrey.
No. No, I was just gonna say, like, now since I'm trying to move out, I feel like I've really been just saving like a crazy person. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
especially since you're going to the Forbidden City.
yes.
Well, when you talk about saving and not spending money, a lot of people, the criticism is, well, is always an easy for you to say, or you're not living paycheck to paycheck. But the thing is, I did live paycheck to paycheck for like forever. I did that forever. I did that all the way until about roughly like 8 years ago. Like, I mean, or even then, there was probably moments of living paycheck to paycheck even then. But like, I was making like $36,000 a year. That's not as much money as people would think it is. And again, I had other people I was helping in that situation too. Even then. And so, we want to talk about living below your means? Yeah, straight up. But the thing about it is, even then I still saved money. If I hadn't saved money when my mom lost the house, I wouldn't be able to have the necessary money to do a down payment and first and last month, everything I needed to do, and move everybody and do everything. And I was able to do that because I saved money the entire year that I worked in New York. I saved money, like ruthlessly saved money. And
One tactic that I did, which you guys know, is that I built up credit. So because I wasn't making enough money to actually save a lot of money,
yeah,
I was building up my credit. So I was able to build my credit. So I have a lot of money available to me if I want to use plastic and put debt and
Credit
come up with a
good, debt
payment
bad.
plan. Right. But let's say that there was an emergency that was, a
Then you
big
would
sum
just
of
be able to
money
take
and I
care of
didn't
it.
have it, then I would be able to take care of it. It's obviously not ideal. Obviously you want, to be able to be over and done with it, but it's better than not being able to deal with it,
In a video game, in an MMORPG, it'd be like giving yourself a massive power boost buff that also does some damage to you over time. But at least you would be at a power level to fight and slay the enemy that's right in front of you. That's how that would work in a video game.
I guess I'm happy that I learned a lot about like saving and like my parents like taught me pretty early on about that stuff. So I feel like I've always had like a frugal mindset, I guess, with spending and stuff.
I was taught that too, but I wasn't taught to take it extreme enough, because the extreme that it should be taken to is like, the extreme that I recommend is where you're saving over half of whatever you make. Like, and that sounds harsh, and it sounds like, well, I'm not making enough. And I'm like, that's why I advocate so strongly, as all of you know, for side hustle, build something else, multiple streams of income, da 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 da. Because even if you worked, and I did this, I had to do it. I worked 8, and usually not just 8 hour, the like 9 to 5. That like I worked the 9 to 5 thing, but I had like, I'm just gonna say it, I had an asshole boss, and I had crappy coworkers, and I had a work structure where if all the customer service tickets weren't closed, everyone stays after work until it's closed, which means I always ended up losing time for other people's laziness. And
Right.
that's why I have such an adamant disgust for it, because it meant me missing like my sister's recitals and stuff like that. It meant me not being able to be home and get rest or do anything else, or like my time was being robbed by other people's laziness at that point and by the unreasonableness of my boss. But the thing is, everyone knew what the deal was, so it's like, get tickets done so we can go home. And I was also doing a job that was another level at the company, and I would always end up picking up slack after doing work that no one else could do because I specialized. I then had to pick up the slack of the grunt work that anybody could walk in there and do, and it was annoying, and it was frustrating, and it was also keeping me from being able to work harder on top of that, because when I would go home, I was going to work hard in one of two ways. I was either going to be polishing and learning the skills that were going to take me further, or I was going to be doing freelance work and hustling. So I was either going to be learning or I was going to be applying the skills I had. And that was what I was going to be doing. And yeah, I liked hanging out with my friends, and I did that a lot and stuff, but I started cutting even some of that back for a reason. It was that, do I want to still keep goofing around and hanging out with my friends and go through the same suffering Monday to Friday that I've been, or do I want to be in a position to change that? What am I willing to change? What am I willing to change about myself? What am I willing to give up to have a life that's better than what I have? Because it's not something that's going to happen otherwise.
Right.
And even if I thought it would happen otherwise in 4 or 8 years, the time's gonna pass anyway. I'm not gonna hold my breath and wait for a savior. I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah. Juanfer in the chat says, I know people that they owe money to their mortgage and ask for money every week, but always buy the new iPhone.
And they always find a reason why they can justify that.
Yeah.
I don't even have the new iPhone. I always buy it every other year. I think when I start the tech YouTube channel, I can change that because then I can justify it because it'll pay for itself.
I think that what's admirable about your story, Roberto, what you were talking about right now is, I was listening to you talk about your boss and like about working, with lazy people and all of that stuff. There's a lot of people who will come out and say, well, it shouldn't be that way, or like, it's not cool that it is that way, or like, they'll try to find some kind of justification for like, oh, poor Roberto, right? But what's admirable is the fact that you didn't take that mindset and stayed there of, well, I'm poor Roberto, this is my life and this sucks.
Yeah.
I need somebody to come and save me. You're like, well, this isn't the life that I want. You determined I don't want to work for lazy people or with lazy people. I want to create my own thing and I want to do it on my time.
Yeah.
And so you put in the work to learn the skills that you needed in order to make that transition in life. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is making that choice.
I sacrificed, like, there's friends that I had that by the time I had made it and now I had time on my hands again or stuff like that, it's like that they were kind of like, they felt slighted or something like that, or thought I thought I was too good for them or whatever. And so like, yeah, I lost some of those friendships from college and stuff like that. Some of those people I'd known for like 5 or 8 years. It's like the 2 years I've been in Atlanta, like only like 3 of the people that I like kind of grew up with have come to visit me the entire time that I've been in Atlanta. Like, and it's whatever. A couple more of them will call or text on my birthday, or whenever they see that I have like a highlight or an accomplishment, they'll congratulate me or whatever. But it's like, these are people that I used to spend every weekend with, Romina, and I haven't like heard or talked to some of them in like the last 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
And the truth is that when you start working and doing your own thing and building your own empire, these people come out the woodworks. Like they suddenly appear. Right. And it's like suddenly they remember your birthday on the one end. Right. Where it's like you spend all this time focused on your own project. And then, eventually those relationships disintegrate. But then suddenly, you're on CNN and they're interviewing you for something, or, whatever. Like someone's interviewing you for viral video. And then like they come out the woodwork and they're like, oh, hey, happy birthday. Oh, I heard about this great thing that you just did. And it's like, yeah, well, that's because, I sacrificed all these weekends not hanging out with you to do the thing.
I wonder why people do that. Like, it's so obvious. like the intention behind doing that.
Look, here's the thing. I don't think they even have an intention. Sometimes they don't even have an intention. They do it unintentionally. Like they just think
I
like,
think
oh,
what
like they just
Audrey is
remember.
saying is that it's not that you're trying to be a bad friend, it's that you're trying to work on yourself or change your life. She's saying that the person working hard is they're not trying to blow their friends off, and that in their good intention should be obvious of like she's saying that the other friends
Oh, she's
shouldn't
talking
take it.
about the she's talking
Yeah.
about the other side of it. I was talking
Yeah.
about the people coming out of woodwork. Who are you talking about, Audrey?
No, I was talking about like the person who's texting the friend who's like succeeding or whatever.
Oh, right, the
why?
people who come out of the woodworks. Right.
I know, but I feel like if you're doing that, like I don't understand why they would think that that's.
I don't think they look. Here's the thing. I don't think they realize it because when my tweet went viral a couple weeks ago, like I had a bunch of people who were suddenly tweeting me and like messaging me and stuff, and like and a lot of people use specific wording like, "Oh, my friend Romina,"
Like,
where I'm like, "I've never met you before, like ever." Which I don't mind. It's like, you know, they're just being friendly and stuff, and they're just being proud of like, you know, they're being supportive and whatever,
Yeah, that's
which
all
is
good.
fine. Like, I'm also not going to be like, oh, well, you weren't there for me when I only got 2 likes on my tweet. Now all of a sudden I get 100,000 retweets and you want to be my friend. Like, I'm also not going to do that because that's not fair. But you know, I just don't think, I think that some people don't realize it, that they're doing it when they're doing it. And yeah, for other people, it's because they have something that they think that they'll get something from you, you know, whether it's money or they'll get an introduction to get a job or, you know, people just, they're desperate for something and they'll try to do it that way. I mean, I've had people that have come up to me and asked me how I collaborated with people who have, you know, hundreds of thousands more subscribers than I do or a million subscribers. I made videos with these people because they were my friends. But I've had people ask me, oh, how did you manage that? I'm like, I texted them and said, hey, do you want to make a video?
Yeah.
Because we're friends.
Because you know,
and it's like it
not
just seems
everything
like
is
so,
about leverage or getting ahead, and
or
like
numbers.
sometimes
Or,
relationships are called relationships.
Right. And in the same regard, like I have friends who are millionaires and I also have friends who like went into overdraft like in their bank accounts like 2 weeks ago, right? So it's like it there's like this misconception that like you have to be at a certain level in order to be friends with
Most of the people
of the
I
same
spend
level.
time with, most of the people I spend the most time with, all make under $50,000 a year.
See, and I think that's something to talk about because people don't realize that. They think that, oh, you know, because they make 6 figures or 7 figures, they're only hanging out with people who make 6 figures or 7 figures.
No, the thing is, what people don't realize is that you're not stuck and beholden to hanging out with people that you didn't have a choice hanging out with. That's part of why I made it a point to try. Remember, my initial thing wasn't necessarily to do what I'm doing now. It's where I ended up finding and going because things were working and they were like leading me in that direction. Like I went from being a salaried employee to being a freelancer who could make the same money but not having to be told when to wake up, when I can actually clock out and leave home, leave and go home, and also most importantly, not having to be around people who didn't really like me, like, and that I didn't really like them, to be honest, and that we like what we had in common was that we were stuck together 10 hours a day, and we would not be friends if it weren't for that situation. It's also having the choice of like, you know, if I didn't grow up with that person and I had just met them, would I really be friends with them? Like, once you have an abundance of options and also exposure to different groups of people, you find that you can actually be friends with the people that you would be friends with without some pre-existing condition that forced you together, because you know that you can leave the room and go to a room of your choosing anytime. When you don't have a certain amount of money per se, or what money allows for is the better wording of that. What money allows you to do is it gives you these options and it opens these doors, and it means that there are less consequences for saying no. And the ultimate freedom is in saying no, not yes. It's always being in a position where the answer can be no. And like signing a contract of employment is a choice. It's a yes. And when you sign on for that, you're signing on for maybe your boss being a dick. You're signing on for maybe having an asshole manager or lazy coworkers that you end up cleaning up behind, or dealing with crappy customers that don't respect the people who do a job that gives them what they need. Um, but again, as crappy and bad as all that is, you did technically sign up for it. And why
Mm.
did you sign up for it? You didn't have the luxury of a no. You didn't have the
Right.
luxury of saying no. When I ended up leaving my job, I didn't have the immediate income to replace my job. I had just a little bit of runway, but what I had was the confidence that I understood that the amount of money that I was making after taxes and stuff like that, I was like, I felt confident to say I have enough skills and I have enough talent that if I go to the market with these same skills without them as the middleman, I can extract this kind of value and I can do that. And I'm like, I know I can do it because I've been freelancing and side hustling. I'm like, if I have control of all of my time, I can do this because I'm not trading my time for money, I'm trading my results for money. So I can find a way to be useful for this amount of money and I can solve a problem that's big enough. And
Mm.
I knew that and I believed that. So I didn't have to trade my time for money anymore because I knew what I had in skills was valuable enough to be able to ask for money to deliver on an outcome and get it. And
Mm.
so since I knew that, I could walk away from that environment. I could walk away from that job and I could walk away from those horrible circumstances. And it wasn't easy, but it was simple. And the only reason I could do that is because while I was working, I didn't keep feeling justified in comforting myself with my video games and going out to the club anymore. I didn't I was like, I could hang out with my friends, but I was like, if we're hanging out, I'm not spending money. We're doing something that's free or extraordinarily cheap. I'm down to go to the house. I'm down to go and do a run to the liquor store instead of the nightclub. I'm down
Mm.
to hang at the house and play cards, play video games, something that costs $0. I'm down to literally go walk around the mall for a while and spend $0 so I can get some exercise. I'm down to do anything that costs $0. I'm like, I'm down to go and grab comic books at Barnes and Noble and not buy them and sit and drink like water and laugh at the comic books and pay $0. I'm like, let's do that. And by the way, let's
Right.
carpool. So there's like, so that we like, I don't got gas money. Like I was, when I say being broke and being frugal, like I'm not playing around. Like I was like, I was really almost like desperate about it. I'm like, no, like, um, things got bad to where I was pawning things. And I pawned like all my video game stuff, and I was like, I'm not even gonna buy crap anymore because I'll just end up here selling it. So I'm just not gonna buy anything. Like,
Right.
so like for me, it was all about understanding where I needed to be versus where I was and figuring out what sacrifices I could make to move the needle and to not be in positions of desperation. And I didn't let my circumstances, I mean, it affected my self esteem and my mental health. I almost killed myself, but I didn't let those things tell me that it wasn't possible to change. I refused to accept that. And maybe it's because I'm a creative person and I know better. But like, I knew that whatever was inside me was enough to make things different, and and that may not be everybody's situation. I get that. But if you're in perfect health, if you're in perfect physical health, it's probably within your power to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when people want to make the argument, they won't talk about themselves. They will use the straw man and they will pull up somebody with a disability or somebody with a kid and or somebody homeless and like and it annoys me so much because the community that I've helped build, the community that I built, I have so many stories of people that have it worse. There's a woman in my community that is crushing it right now. And 18 months ago, when I first met her and knew her, I didn't even know the full extent of her circumstances. She has a child with autism, and she was homeless. And in the last 18 months, she's freaking crushing it. Crushing it. Working for amazing people, doing amazing work, and was able to put herself and her son in an apartment, be ahead on rent, like all of these things that anyone would have looked at her circumstances and says, oh, well, you can't do that unless somebody comes in and, you know, dramatically makes changes in your life. No, she did it. She did it. She built that. She did it on her own as a single woman, as a single mom with a kid with special needs, because that needed to happen. The only intervention that happened in her life were a few people like me who took the time to help her figure some things out for herself.
Right. There's even if you look at the Bible, you know, you teach a man to teach a man to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life, you know. Give a man a fish and he'll
You
just
feed him
eat
for a day.
right? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of truth in that, where I think it's great when you're able to give, and it's great when you're able to receive. But there's also something so rewarding. Like, for instance, right now I'm teaching myself how to build this app, this web app. I don't know anything about this. I have some experience with, like, you know, developing, but it's not like, and I'm trying to do this as no code. So this is also like another challenge on top of that, because I'm trying to build something given the elements that I'm being provided, right? And part of me is I want to prove that I'm able to do this, mainly for myself,
Yeah.
but then also to other people as well.
To show what's possible.
To show that it's possible, because, you know, just maybe like even 6 years ago, if I had an idea for an app, I would have had to go find a developer and pay them 20 grand to help me build it. And now there's so many options available, so many different softwares and applications that you can use in order to build apps, and for free. I mean, I haven't paid a dime, and I've been working on this for almost a month now. I haven't paid anything. Nothing. Zilch. Actually, that's not true. I paid $20 today to buy the domain name. But this is like, I'm learning, right?
But that's
at the
a
same
minimal,
time,
like anything under $100, I'm like, okay, anybody could do it.
right. And if I wanted to take a boot camp, I could. I saw boot camps. They're like, you know, $500, $700. Still,
That's amazing.
I mean, you're talking about less than $1,000, right?
I could have made that in a summer mowing lawns.
And this is,
and
we're talking about a product, which, if I do it right, could potentially, you know, 10 times my
easily
the
easily, and it'll be real
investment.
passive, and it'll be passive for real.
Exactly. So, and you know what? Like, even if I give up, it doesn't.
I won't let you.
But even if I do, right? Even if I do, the possibility and the opportunities still exist. And that's amazing. And I feel like there's really something in doing something for yourself.
Yeah, and challenging yourself, yourself.
And it's so rewarding. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's really great when someone hands you a $100 bill. Like, it's really great. It's also really great when you've done something amazing. Like, let's say you drew a portrait, and someone paid you $100 for it. And I think that there's value in both, you know. I think that there's value in both things.
I feel grateful, but I don't feel good about it's like it makes you feel good, but it doesn't, like, and like, even as a kid, I used to always think, even when my parents would give me stuff for Christmas or birthdays, I'd feel good until I start thinking about how hard they work for me to have this thing. I mean, I tried to take good care of my things, but you know, in the moment, and you're a kid and you forget sometimes, and then it's like, then you feel terrible afterward. Like, I mean, racked with guilt all the time.
Right.
And so, one of the reasons also that when I see something for me that I actually want, I go ahead and I get it. And it's partly that it's like, it means that I don't have to ask anybody for anything, or I don't never, or I can tell people, oh, you don't have to get me anything, or like, like or if you want to get me something because giving feels good, I make sure that it's like, okay, there's nothing they can buy me that's not sentimental or modest or small because I've done anything that would be not that, you know, and also for me, I just never liked it. I always liked feeling like I earned something. Even when I was being given gifts and stuff like that, I like my parents started to understand and made sure that that they were telling me, well, it's because you got your good grades, or it's because you're a good kid and you're well behaved, and or it's because you do a great job with your siblings, and that would make me feel better. Is that something was earned on my part. And
Mm-hmm.
this isn't a oh blah 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 lazy people blah blah blah. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your own psychology and mental health of if you were to quote unquote make it, but you knew you owed it to somebody else, you'll never feel confident. You'll never feel confident, and you'll always be waiting for the other shoe to drop. And even a lot of the things you're seeing now come out and happen is because we're seeing a lot of things. I don't really want to super get into it, but a lot of the stories that are coming out are because people people felt leveraged and compromised because they felt that somebody they wouldn't be where they are if somebody didn't do something for them, and because they felt they owed them, they compromised their morals or their values, or made themselves vulnerable in a way that they shouldn't have, or somebody that they couldn't trust because they felt that they owed their success and where they are to that person, so they didn't
Right.
feel like they had the luxury of saying no. And no is a complete sentence, and you should never feel that way. And money and power that you earned on your own is the leverage to say no, and also to never feel beholden again. To never feel beholden again. Even when my boss was doing things I didn't agree with in the company, I had to do things in the company that I wasn't really cool with and that I wasn't fully on board with and stuff like that. And then there were things where like they just knew that they couldn't come to me and have me do it because they knew he won't do that, or he's too straight edge or whatever. It's like it got to a point to where it's like legal and HR came and like the boss was asking me something, and then I was like, oh, well, the way that that happens or the way someone does that is this, and this is how they do it. And then they go, and then you know what they said out loud? They said, never call him as an expert witness in a deposition because he's too honest. Never call him as an expert witness. They were serious too. They were like, never call him as an expert witness.
Yeah.
And like when you have to look at that and know that like your ethics and morals and values could be the difference between you being able to have your paycheck or not. My mom was in that position. That's how like things got hard for her. You know, they buried her because she was too honest.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to lose a class action lawsuit. So the easy thing was to, you know. But anyway, my point is when people want to earn a certain amount of money or people endeavor to earn a certain amount of money, yes, you could theoretically make a lot of compromises and you could make $50,000 enough a year. You could make $100,000 enough a year. But what compromises are you making by doing that and not trying to do more? And what sadistic choices are you unaware of that could come with somebody leveraging you and taking advantage of you and you not having the means to resist because of your circumstances? And then do you not want to have money if you plan to have kids? Don't you want to make enough money? Because like there's people demonizing the whole rents and landlords things and stuff like that, and oh well, you should just keep working your shitty job like the rest of us and blah 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 blah. And that's this crabs in a barrel shit, and that I cannot stand. And it's because there's nothing wrong with wanting to have 4 or 5 properties and leave it to your kid, and there's nothing wrong with wanting your kid to be privileged. There's nothing wrong when you've worked your whole life for your kid to be privileged, because you don't want your kid to be on the job putting up with that casual racism or that sexism. You don't want your kid to feel like they can't say no to that man or that woman that propositions them and offers them an out. You never want your kid to be in that position where they can't say no or where they're made an offer they can't refuse. So it's worth it to bust your hump, and it's worth it to have a bunch of like, you know, shitty ass Zoomers tell you that you're the devil because you decide to rent properties out.
Well, also, there's also people who have absolutely no intention of buying ever in their life, and they would like to just rent, and they really don't care about owning property, and they really just want to, rent and maybe move to another place for a while and rent there. And
I mean, I'm doing it now
so what are we
because
gonna?
I'm saving up to buy my mom a house.
Right. So what, these people, they need a place to live. And so what are they, they need to, these, landlords are providing a place for these people who want to rent. So what's the
My
big deal?
uncle works for the MTA down in the bowels of New York City, risking literal life for everyday people that probably wouldn't even look him in the eye as they go to work. And he has 2 properties now and is working on a third. And the thing is, he rents to people that he gives them excellent rates, and they couldn't be in the city, and they couldn't go and have their decent enough job if they couldn't live there to work there, and they can only afford to be there because he doesn't charge them what other people would charge them. Like, and he doesn't lean on them, and he, like, he makes sure that they're all right, but he makes sure that, like, he doesn't, like, there's people that maybe they had something in their background because they screwed up as a kid or something like that. And when that happens, especially in the black and brown community, like, you can't rent a place or whatever unless there's someone like my uncle willing to give you a shot.
Audrey, I'm curious to know, how do you feel about being given $100 versus earning $100 for doing something?
Well, one of my like long-term goals is to have some sort of like, I don't know exactly, but I think Roberto was talking about this not like maybe last year, like a grant mentoring program where it's not just like, oh, I'm going to give you like a little bit of money, but also
more like a fellowship kind of deal.
Yeah, like that's one of my goals long term, is to do that specifically with like young women creators.
I love that you want to do that. And again, I've been trying to work out the details. It's like, it's so hard to get some of these things done. Sometimes it's not even just that you need the money, it's that you have to learn how to do everything legally, and you have to learn how to do everything.
I think about that. Yeah, but
You gotta
like,
make a checklist.
I have to build a. I have to. The good thing is my mom can help me with some of it because she used to write grant programs and 501c3 charitable organization stuff. And so she can help me start my nonprofit that would allow for this. But I can't even do that until I get my business much more automated and I'm able to hire more people to take things off my shoulders. I'm able to put myself in a position where I don't have these damn deadlines. I have to make a lot more money and hire a lot more people, because that's the other thing is, if you do this stuff as an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, $100,000 isn't enough, because one, you pay more in taxes, but then two, unlike a regular employee, you had to spend a lot more money to make money, assuming that you didn't have to spend money on childcare to be able to go to work, because that's spending money to make money. And that's what normal people.
That's a whole other conversation, talking about businesses and how much is it that you're actually making.
Yeah, but I mean, even after paying off, like even after the business expenses, I still do over the 100,000 after the business expenses, and I feel very grateful for that. But again, I don't think most people, if they actually understood what it is I do to make the money that I make, they would probably say, I'm not willing to do any of those things. I'm like, and I'd be like, good for you, fine, like, because that's fair, and you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't. Most people probably shouldn't, and I'm okay with that. I don't think my lifestyle, I made it healthy enough, healthy enough for me, healthier than the one I was working in when I was at the 9 to 5, believe it or not. I'm healthier than I was 10 years ago. I'm older and I'm 36 and I'm healthier than I was at 26. I'm healthier than most of the 26-year-olds I know. But the mental strain and capacity, and you both know about this because I talked to you about it openly, to do what I do is not something that I think most people can or should do and would be able to manage. It's not something that I can earnestly recommend that people go as far as I'm going, because I don't think that it's mentally healthy for most people.
Speaking of health, Aaron Piepert would like to know, what does a NARP taste like?
Paprika. I don't know why
It has no taste, but it has the texture of cotton candy.
Ooh, wait, are you saying we don't have taste?
Basically, you're saying it's air, because
You just said we don't have taste.
it's like air that you can eat.
Well, I feel like we've dropped some very valuable nugs of wisdom in this episode.
I feel like I haven't talked so much, but I've been
all right,
like
Audrey, how about you tell the audience to rate us and review us and all that stuff?
If you guys haven't left us a review, you should do that. We have one more last time after asking, but Aaron's still here.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron. #1 fan, because he left us a review.
Yes. If you guys want to join Aaron, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Is that what it's called? Yes. We'd really appreciate it.
We do.
Yes. We will read it out on the next one. How about that? We read them if they actually leave us a review.
Yeah, you know what?
We'll
I take
read
it back.
your reviews.
I take it back. NARP is spicy. NARP is spicy. It's got that Carolina Reaper flavor.
Ooh,
Dang.
spicy like cayenne pepper.
Beyond that, it's the Reaper.
Oof.
Thing.
And if you guys want to follow us, No Assembly Pod on Twitter.
All the
at
things.
No Assembly Pod.
Instagram, but I don't
And
think
Instagram.
We ain't doing jack with that Instagram yet. We should though.
Hey, but it's there. So if y'all
We
want to
should just
follow
make
us,
quotable like graphics in Canva of like whatever the like most memeable quote is, or we should just like make it a meme. Actually, no, I take it back. Just make it a meme account. Make the No Assembly Required Pod in Instagram a meme account. Audrey can do it.
I like how you just nominated her for that.
Yeah.
This is a great one.
I've just
It's not a
volunteered her as
threat, so
tribute.
let's
I just
go.
volunteered her as tribute.
I like
make it
this
into
one.
an account.
Can
Can I
you make
really
this?
go crazy with it?
Yeah, just post memes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't even have to be pictures of us.
You
You can
guys
just
don't
straight
know
up
what
do
you
memes.
just allowed me to do.
Yeah, no, I know what I did. Like I have a method to my madness.
Just make sure that you add some hashtags to it. All right.
Just like make it go viral,
On Instagram.
Yeah, just make it go viral.
Okay.
We need that Insta clout.
Yeah, some high quality NARP memes.
I can
Would
just
you
like
to
terrible.
our audience, if I actually made NARP merch, would you buy it?
NARP merch.
Let us know on Twitter at No Assembly Pod.
Guys, our mascot should be the narwhal. It sounds like.
I don't know if we can get away with that for copyright purposes.
Oh wait,
Wait, why?
it's an animal.
What narwhals aren't copyrighted? What's the matter with you?
All right, we'd have to make one that is custom, because I'm sure that somebody's made one already that's copyrighted.
Okay, we can think about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, like we'd have to make one that's custom. We can't just like grab an image or like an illustration.
Andy wants to know what Yu-Gi-Oh card I would summon if I tributed Audrey.
I was never into Yu-Gi-Oh, so I have no idea what that even
Yeah,
means.
see, narwhals are public domain.
Okay, narwhals are public domain. Like, all right, to see that would be harsh. That would be super harsh, but it's like, if I'm gonna like tribute Audrey for like a summon, I better like bring out like a Blue Eyes White Dragon or something. I better win.
Wait, what? I'm so confused.
You'd have to watch this anime to like. I'll have to like. I have to like. Maybe there's an anime movie. I think there's an anime movie version where you can at least get the gist of the rules, but like it's complicated, Audrey. It's game mechanics. It's like, it might have even been before your time. So.
Well,
Wow.
I was into Bakugan, and Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of like the.
Okay, Yu-Gi-Oh is what kicked off that whole craze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of before your time, Audrey, have you made any other dents in the famous spreadsheet that we have linked in the description of this live
You
stream?
know, it is the list that doesn't end. Yes, it
How
goes
did this
on
story
and
happen?
on.
Or the song happen? No, I feel like I have. I think I've been updating it. Right
Have you
now we're
watched it?
watching all three. We watched the first two Back to the Futures, so there's still the last one to
Okay,
go.
so you gotta watch the last one. Okay.
That's not on the list, but you know.
Yeah, because I didn't add trilogies. I just added like the first of
its kind.
some of them. Yeah.
I don't know. I
You're
feel
doing
like
extra credit.
I just can't really remember. I don't remember last time.
There's a reason that there's check boxes next to it, so
I
you
know.
can keep track. Hello. I put in all this work and you're not even following
I
through.
have been checking them. Hold on.
Really? You just said you don't remember. For those of you who don't know what the heck we're talking about, I made a spreadsheet for Audrey with the help of Roberto and some other friends who contributed some titles of films that Audrey needs to watch in order to be cultured in pop culture and cinema and just art in general. Overall, we're just making her a more well-rounded person.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Wow. Okay. Well, with that, I guess we can wrap up this episode. If Roberto wants to take us out.
Let's see.
We gotta give him some time. Romina,
All
let's talk
All
about
right.
something.
We'll just but nothing too interesting so that he doesn't.
Did you see there's a Nintendo Switch Bakugan game coming out?
I've got it.
All right, you got it. Okay.
There's a Nintendo what coming out?
A Nintendo Switch Bakugan.
Okay, I did not know.
There's a lot of people who were upset because they're like, "Why Bakugan?" But there's a very small, like, nostalgic fans that were very excited.
Oh, look at that. Otto watched Spirited Away as soon as the list was shared by Romina some episodes ago.
Sweet.
Check that out. So someone is actually doing your homework for you, Audrey.
Wow.
By the way, if you guys do want to see this list, I'm not kidding. It is in the description of every single video, every single recording for the podcast and the live stream. So just go to the description down below and there's a link to it. The spreadsheet is public, so you guys can check it out.
Also, self-promo, follow me over on twitch.tv/Roberto Blake, and I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff over on Twitch.
Ooh, that free promo.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I've got our outro.
All right. Take us out.
Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. No audience members were harmed in the filming of this podcast, only the feelings of people who disagree with me. Please rate and review us on all podcast reviewing websites, the only of which probably even has reviews is Apple Podcasts, so please do it over there and continue listening on the podcasting app of your choice. Thank you so very much. Please like and subscribe on youtube.com/noassemblypod. Your co-host now are signing off. Romina still with the good hair. Audrey, look out for the quiet one's Ember. And your host, Roberto, the final boss, Blake. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast. Please join us again next Thursday and every Thursday until the stars burn cold at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time-ish. And we will continue to entertain you. Thank you for listening. NARP!